Okay, I'm across the street here with a new video out. I want to explain all the work that we've been doing over here. I know there's some questions that were asked. I didn't really want to talk about it until we were mostly finished with the project, because it turned into a much more extensive project than I thought it was going to be. In fact, I think this project, I've been doing in-house projects for over 20 years at golf courses, and this project I'm most proud of because it was extremely challenging. If we didn't do it in-house, it's probably a $200,000 project that we were all able to work together and do ourselves, which I'm very proud of too. My guys have been fantastic through the whole process. What we're just trying to do when we started was I knew this ditch was here, so we're just trying to get it to work properly. And as we got more involved with the project, as soon as I opened up the ditch, we noticed that more water than I could ever imagine was coming through here. So I'm positive that this is going to help with our drainage issues across the street here. This ditch was never maintained properly, which is no one's fault, it just happens. We actually ended up taking 32 trees along the ditch down because the tree roots were growing over into the ditch and blocking the water flow. I've been here 11 years, and since I've been here, I've never seen water in this ditch. As you can see now, we haven't had rain in 2 weeks and the water's still lightly flowing. When I first opened this ditch, the water was all the way up to here, flowing at a rapid rate, which means that whole ground on 14 was just so oversaturated that I pretty much relieved it all of all the pressure. We started in December, and there's been water in the ditch since December. So I know that this water came from somewhere, and it's mostly 14 fairway, 14 green, and the woods over there. But since it wasn't flowing, the water is going to go to the path of least resistance, and what it was doing was coming out of our pipes and going and saturating all of 14 fairway. So this should dry out 14 fairway. And in the process too, if there are still wet areas, it's very easy for us to add in drainage here. Like I said, we took down, I think it was 32 trees just along the ditch, and then we cleared some in the woods there. All the trees that we removed were all bad trees. The root system was poor because they were growing into the ditch with the water. Dangerous trees, and none of them were oak trees actually. We took down sweet gum and a couple maple and cherry trees, which are not trees that we really want on the course anyway. I left up some of the big oak trees just for aesthetics first and foremost, but also they're not necessarily in play, and they'll look nice long, to give you a little bit of gap. One thing, I did have a question that we're making the hole easier, but actually you have to hit a really bad shot to be over here in this ditch area, because there's 3 oak trees that line the fairway, which I would consider very poorly planted trees. They're way too close to the fairway. If you stand on that tee, you'll notice now that those 3 trees block everything from going over here. It's hard to hit a shot here. It's actually, I would like to talk about those 3 trees down the road, because now that we've removed these, you'll notice how tight those are up against the fairway, and they're only going to get bigger. They're very poorly planted trees. You don't ever really want to plant a tree 10 yards off a fairway like that. It's just going to grow and be in the way. That being said, when you're on the tee now and you do hit a bad shot, you better tee up again, because your ball is going to be lost. Just by eliminating these trees through here. One thing that we are going to do is just put one sod strip along our stone here to support the bank. As I was getting more into the project, this was a real steep bank, and I had to build the entire sides on both ends because it was too steep. I went at a 45-degree angle, and we found all this stone around the course. My guys did a fantastic job. We started buying stone, and you'll see at the beginning of the fairway there, that stone cost almost $2,000 just for that low section. So we would have had to spend $60,000 just in stone for this project. Fortunately, my guys were patient enough, and they gathered all this stone here. My key guys went around the course and gathered it so we could place it up alongside the bank. That way we stabilized the bank. After they put the stone in, I came in with the mini excavator and I pushed the stone up against the side, so it's all stable now. Along here you can see I felt this was a little bit dangerous, so I built up a little bit berm so the carts won't go in there. Prior to this, I'm sure you didn't even notice because of all the trees, this bank was really steep. It pretty much came straight down, so I had to rebuild and reshape all of this. That's why this was a very extensive project. I did not think it was going to be as much as it was, but I'm glad we did it the right way. I easily could have just opened the ditch and let the water flow for, a couple months, but then it just would have caved back in and the tree roots would have been a mess. This, as you can see, after a rainstorm, especially now, the amount of water that comes through here is going to dry our course up a lot. That's what we're looking for. As a superintendent, you always want to be in control of the water, and this is going to help us out drastically. The other thing is there's no grass here along this side. Again, you probably didn't notice as much because of all the trees, but this was all basically dirt, so nothing's changed. What we're going to do is we're just going to seed it for now instead of sodding the whole thing, because we still have old tree roots in there that we can't remove all those tree roots. We have to let them die out first. This area will get much more sun. We're going to get much more air movement through this area, which is going to change your ball in the air. Also from the tee, now the hole looks a lot longer than it is. Again, this is my favorite project that we've ever done. I'll just bring you up through here. You can see there's still, like I said, there's still water in through there. All this right here, this was a 90-degree angle pitch right into that ditch. And as you can see, it's a real deep ditch. I did not expect it to be this deep either, but once we took all the leaves and the debris and tree roots out, this is the original ditch. You can see I played with it a little bit around here where it wasn't just one straight shot. We curved it to make it more aesthetically pleasing. Once this is all cleaned up and we get the grass grown in, it's gonna look beautiful. The other thing that we noticed here, this is just one example, and there's about 6 or 7 of these pipes. He could show you here. There's one here and one over there. These are drainage pipes for the fairway, for 15 fairway and 15 bunker right there. What was happening is these were all covered up. We found these pipes when we were digging this out, so the water could never drain off 15 because this was so filled with debris. Now we exposed these pipes and it's already dried out 15 fairway. It's already dried out that bunker. The other reason I want to do this project too is, 14 green has always been a wet green. So now we could dry that out because all the drainage goes through there. As we walk up here, I'll speak a little more about that. I wanted to redo these bunkers on 14, but I couldn't do them until we figured out why they were so wet. This again is going to dry everything out, so now I can tackle those bunkers. If I would have did those bunkers this season without fixing this drainage, I would have just wasted your money, because the problem with those bunkers are they're too wet. I know we hate those bunkers, and now we could redo them, so that was part of the deal too. As you can see, we had to cut some of the roots along here. We kept a couple of the tree stumps there just because they're a little bit big for me to take out, but I did take out a good 20 or so of the tree stumps, which was a process all in itself. You could see them lying around over here. We'll pick them up within next week or so. as we get over here on 14, you can see this was an old ditch that Tillinghast put in that I'm going to reestablish also. We're already getting into the end of March, so I want to focus on the course. This will be another project down the road, but you can see I have a good start to it. I could explain that in a different video, so this one's not too long. But we're eventually going to tie this ditch in here so we could get more water flowing. Over here, we had all the trees along the ditch here that we removed. There were 12 of them there. I think there were 12 just right there. So now off the tee, if you hit a long shot, your ball is going to go into the ditch. So you're going to have to think about that off the tee for you long hitters. Even as a second shot, if you're in the woods and you chip out, you're going to have to think about this. All in all, like I said, this is my favorite project because of what it's going to do for our course. I really feel we're going to be able to allow carts over here a lot faster after rainstorms. And I'm also, if we notice that it's still wet, I could tie drain lines right into this ditch and fix any wet issues around here real quick. So that's our project. I know that I haven't talked about it much because I want to make sure that you could see where we're at with it, instead of, it was been such a mess over here for a month and a half. So now that it's cleaned up a little bit more, you can understand what we're doing. And this is such a big project that we got done that is just going to be better for everything, for turf health, for playability, and aesthetically. You could see it's way better than it looked. I hopefully you remember how poorly this area looked before. Once we get the grass grown in with this ditch, it's just going to look absolutely amazing. So that's the video for today. Thanks for your patience with this project, and hopefully you understand how important it was. Thanks.